On a quiet summer night in Aurora, Colorado, 23-year-old Elijah McClain was walking home from a convenience store. It was August 24th, 2019, a Saturday. He had just picked up 3 iced teas, like he often did, and was making his way back to the small apartment he shared with his cousin. It was around 10:30 p.m. when a call came into the Aurora Police Department. The caller, who had been driving past, reported seeing a man in a black ski mask waving his arms near a gas station. The caller admitted the man hadn't threatened anyone, hadn't committed a crime, and didn't seem dangerous. Just sketchy. Still, the call was logged as a suspicious person. 10 minutes later, that call would set off a chain of events that would end Elijah's life and ignite a national outcry for justice. The encounter. Officer Nathan Woodyard was the first to arrive on scene. His dash cam didn't capture video of the encounter, but his body-worn camera did, at least for the first few seconds. "Stop, stop, stop. I have a right to stop you because you're being suspicious," Woodyard said as he approached. Elijah, wearing his mask and jacket despite the summer heat, seemed startled. He was carrying a plastic bag and had earbuds in. Before he could even process what was happening, Woodyard grabbed his arm. Within seconds, two more officers, Jason Rosenblatt and Randy Rodema, arrived and joined in. "Stop tensing up," one officer shouted. "Relax, or I'm going to have to change this situation." Elijah tried to explain himself. "I'm an introvert. Please respect my boundaries. I'm just going home," he said. But the situation quickly escalated. The officers decided to move Elijah from the concrete sidewalk to the grass, where they could more easily force him down. During the struggle, all 3 body cameras became dislodged, tumbling into the grass. The footage captured little, but the audio recorded everything. The sounds of a man pleading for his life. "I can't breathe," Elijah said. "My name is Elijah McClain. I'm just different. That's all. I'm just different." He told them he didn't have a gun, that he didn't fight, that he didn't even eat meat because he didn't want to harm living things. The sounds of a man pleading for his life. "I can't breathe," Elijah said. "My name is Elijah McClain. I'm just different. That's all. I'm just different." He told them he didn't have a gun, that he didn't fight, that he didn't even eat meat because he didn't want to harm living things. "I don't even kill flies," he whispered through gasps, but his words went unheard. Moments later, Officer Woodyard applied a carotid control hold, a restraint designed to temporarily cut off blood flow to the brain, rendering the person unconscious. Elijah went limp. When he regained consciousness, he began vomiting and struggling to breathe. The arrival of paramedics. At around 10:50 p.m., paramedics and fire personnel arrived. Elijah was already handcuffed, surrounded by officers. He wasn't speaking anymore. Lieutenant Peter Kachunek, the senior paramedic on scene, decided Elijah was experiencing excited delirium, a controversial diagnosis often cited in police encounters to justify extreme behavior or resistance. Without conducting a medical assessment or checking Elijah's vitals, Kachunek ordered paramedic Jeremy Cooper to inject Elijah with 500 milligrams of ketamine, a powerful sedative. That dosage, later determined to be calibrated for a 220-pound man, was nearly double what Elijah, who weighed about 140 pounds, should have received. Minutes later, Elijah went into cardiac arrest in the back of the ambulance. Though he was revived on the way to the hospital, he never regained consciousness. 6 days later, on August 30th, 2019, Elijah McClain was declared brain dead. He was 23 years old. Who was Elijah McClain? Elijah wasn't a criminal. He wasn't armed. He wasn't a threat. He was a massage therapist who loved helping others feel better, physically and emotionally. Friends described him as gentle, spiritual, and quirky. He played the violin for cats at animal shelters because he believed music made them feel less lonely. He meditated. He jogged. He didn't like confrontation. His anemia made him feel cold easily, which is why he wore his ski mask even in the summer. To those who knew him, Elijah was a bright light, a soft-spoken soul in a loud world. The first investigation. An autopsy was performed days later. The report found ketamine and a small trace of marijuana in Elijah's system, nothing else. The concentration of ketamine was within therapeutic levels, but the coroner couldn't rule out an adverse reaction. The report listed his cause of death as undetermined. The Aurora Police Department quickly concluded that its officers hadn't violated any policy. The internal investigation cleared them of wrongdoing. Within weeks, they were back on duty. But Elijah's family wasn't satisfied. And neither was the public outcry. For months, Elijah's name barely made headlines. That changed in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis reignited the Black Lives Matter movement nationwide. Thousands of protesters marched through Denver and Aurora, chanting Elijah's name and demanding justice. As the movement grew, disturbing new details surfaced. Photos leaked showing Aurora police officers posing and laughing at a memorial near the scene of Elijah's death, mocking the chokehold that killed him. The public outrage was immediate. The officers in the photo were fired, but the damage was done. Trust was shattered. Amid mounting pressure, Colorado's Attorney General launched an independent investigation into the case. The grand jury indictment. In 2021, after nearly 2 years of silence, a grand jury returned a 32-count indictment against 5 individuals. Officers Nathan Woodyard, Jason Rosenblatt, and Randy Rodema, and paramedics Peter Chichunik and Jeremy Cooper. Each faced charges of manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide. The trials were separated, each to determine the role they played in the tragedy that took Elijah's life. Trial 1, the officers. Randy Rodema and Jason Rosenblatt were tried together first. Prosecutors argued that Rodema used excessive force, tackling Elijah to the ground and keeping him pinned even after he was handcuffed and visibly in distress. His hammerlock maneuver dislocated Elijah's shoulder, and when paramedics arrived, Rodema told them Elijah was fine. This misinformation, prosecutors said, directly led to the fatal ketamine injection. The defense claimed Elijah was resisting and exhibiting superhuman strength, a hallmark of excited delirium. They said the officers feared for their lives. After days of testimony and hours of body camera footage, the jury delivered a split verdict. Rodema was found guilty of criminally negligent homicide and third-degree assault. Rosenblatt was acquitted on all charges. Rodema received a 14-month jail sentence on work release and 200 hours of community service, a punishment Elijah's family called a slap in the face. "This is not justice," Elijah's mother said tearfully. "One man found guilty doesn't erase the others who walked away." Trial 2, Officer Nathan Woodyard. The second trial centered on Officer Woodyard, the first to confront Elijah. Prosecutors argued that Woodyard's decision to escalate the situation set off the fatal chain of events. His carotid hold, though only applied for seconds, was unnecessary, they said, and reckless. But Woodyard's defense told a different story, that he acted out of fear for his life. Taking the stand himself, he described being overwhelmed and terrified, claiming he thought Elijah might have been armed. Woodyard testified that after Elijah was restrained, he stepped away from the scene, believing Elijah was safe and in medical care. In November 2023, Woodyard was acquitted of all charges. He later resigned from the department, receiving a settlement of over $430,000 in back pay and compensation. To many, the verdict felt like another betrayal. To Elijah's family, it was proof that justice still depended on the uniform one wore. Trial 3, the paramedics. The final trial focused on the 2 paramedics, Jeremy Cooper and Peter Chichunik, the men who administered the ketamine. Their defense was simple. They had trusted the police. Officers had told them Elijah was violent and suffering from excited delirium, a diagnosis they were trained to treat with ketamine. But prosecutors argued that both men failed in their most basic medical duties, to assess their patient before treatment. They never checked Elijah's pulse. They never measured his weight. They never verified the diagnosis, and they injected him with a dose meant for a man nearly twice his size. The courtroom was silent as the jury returned its verdict. Both paramedics were found guilty of criminally negligent homicide. Chichunik, the senior paramedic, was also found guilty of second-degree assault. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Cooper received 4 years of probation and work release. Months later, however, a judge overturned Chichunik's prison sentence, reducing it to probation after just 119 days served, citing extenuating circumstances. For Elijah's mother, the decision was devastating. "Human justice," she said, "comes nowhere close to true accountability." Aftermath and legacy. Years later, the impact of Elijah McClain's death continues to echo across America. His case has reshaped policies in Colorado and beyond. The carotid hold is now banned. The use of ketamine by emergency responders is under strict review. And the Aurora Police Department has faced sweeping reforms following a state investigation that found a pattern of racial bias and excessive force. Yet for all the reforms and headlines, one truth remains painfully clear. Elijah is gone. He was a gentle young man who played violin for stray cats and apologized to insects he accidentally stepped on. He was someone who believed kindness could heal, someone who believed in peace, and was met with violence. His final words, "I'm just different," have since become a haunting symbol of misunderstood innocence. A final reflection. Elijah McClain's story isn't just about one tragic night. It's about fear, misunderstanding, and systemic failure. A collision between a man's quiet individuality and a system that too often sees difference as danger. It's a reminder of how quickly an encounter can turn fatal, how easily compassion can be replaced by control, and how the search for justice can stretch on for years, long after the headlines fade. Elijah didn't get the chance to live the life he deserved, but his name continues to inspire change, in courtrooms, in police stations, and in the hearts of those who demand better. What do you think? Was justice truly served in the case of Elijah McClain? Or does his story reveal a deeper problem still waiting to be solved? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this story important, make sure to subscribe for more deep dive documentaries like this one, where we explore the truth behind the cases that shaped our world and the people who never got to tell their own story. Because some names, like Elijah McClain, should never be forgotten. His final words still echo, a haunting reminder of the cost of indifference. His kindness, his love for animals, and his gentle soul remind us what was truly lost. Each protest, each candlelight vigil carries his spirit forward. Change doesn't happen overnight, but stories like Elijah's light the way. They force us to ask, how many more lives must be lost before accountability is real? How many more families must cry out for justice that comes too late? Elijah's story is not just tragedy, it's a call to action, a demand for compassion in every badge, every courtroom, every heart.